Hey guys, tonight we're diving into a tale that's less about bumps in the night and more about the comforting clink of coffee cups in the early morning. Imagine, if you will, a cozy diner tucked away in the heart of Colorado, serving up pancakes and spectral companionship in equal measure. This isn't a place where you'll find ghostly chains rattling or blood-curdling screams echoing through the ventilation system. Oh no. This is the kind of haunting that makes you wonder if you just got an extra splash of cream in your coffee, courtesy of a very particular unseen hand. It's warm, it's inviting, and honestly, you might not even notice the extra spectral service until you've already asked for a second refill. If you're looking for a terrifying encounter that'll make you sure you won't survive the night, well, you're probably in the wrong place. But if you're up for a story about a friendly apparition who still brews coffee, then you're in for a treat. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Now tell me, where are you tuning in from and what time is it where you are? Drop a comment below. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You step through the unassuming door of the daily grind, a small diner nestled in a quiet Colorado mountain town. The scent of brewing coffee, sizzling bacon, and maple syrup immediately wraps around you like a warm, familiar hug. It's the kind of place where the stools at the counter are worn smooth from decades of elbows, and the chrome gleams with the kind of polish only achieved through relentless loving care. The air is thick with comfortable chatter, the clatter of plates, and the gentle hiss of the espresso machine. But as you slide into a booth by the window, you might notice something subtly off. Perhaps a sugar caddy that seemed to shift slightly. Closer, or a napkin dispenser that was definitely empty a moment ago now has a fresh stack. Tiny, almost imperceptible details that your brain quickly rationalizes away. Oh, must have been the waitress, you think, even though she's on the other side of the diner, chatting amiably with a regular. It's like when you swear you left, your keys on the counter, but they mysteriously appear in your pocket. Pure magic or just your brain playing tricks? This diner, unassuming as it seems, is the stage for our story tonight. Twilight Tales of Terror. The friendly apparition who still brews coffee in a Colorado diner. Don't let the terror in the title fool you. The only scary thing here is the potential for an empty coffee pot. For decades, locals and curious travelers alike have whispered about the diner's most dedicated and decidedly non-living employee, Walter. Not a malicious spirit, not a vengeful specter, but a loyal, helpful, and rather tidy ghost who seems to have an unending passion for keeping the coffee fresh and the counter spotless. You see, Walter's story isn't one of tragic demise or unresolved anger. It's a tale of simple devotion, a man so dedicated to his craft that even death couldn't quite separate him from his beloved diner. It's truly a strange but true fact that throughout history, many cultures have documented benevolent household spirits, or genii loci, spirits of place, that protect and aid their chosen locations. Walter, in his own way, is a modern coffee-brewing iteration of this ancient belief. As you sip your coffee, which you have to admit is perfectly brewed, perhaps even a little too perfect, you might catch the subtle aroma of a pipe tobacco, faintly mingling with the diner's usual scents. It's a scent that no one currently working there uses, a ghost of a fragrance from a bygone era. This small detail is one of the many calling cards of Walter. He prefers to remain mostly unseen, a phantom shadow just at the periphery of your vision, but his presence is undeniable. He's the ultimate quiet professional, working his shift without needing a paycheck or a coffee break, though he probably appreciates the lingering aroma. Historians still debate the precise motivations behind the human impulse to anthropomorphize unseen phenomena, but in Walter's case, it feels less like projection and more like honest-to-goodness observation. The diner itself has stood for generations, weathering economic downturns and changing tastes. It saw the rise of the automobile, the advent of rock and roll, and the slow creep of chain restaurants threatening local establishments. A common historical event in America is the slow decline of independent diners and small businesses in the face of larger corporations. Yet, the daily grind, with its steadfast dedication to comfort food and, well, its steadfast spectral employee, has stubbornly thrived. It's almost as if an unseen hand has been carefully guiding its fate, making sure the coffee keeps flowing. And the regulars keep coming back for that particular brand of home-cooked comfort, served with a side of mystery. You might even find yourself wondering if that perfectly crisp bacon on your plate was flipped by a living hand, or one that's been subtly stirring in the afterlife for decades. It's a thought that might make your eyebrows twitch, but certainly not your appetite. You've settled into your booth, the comforting aromas of the diner swirling around you, and perhaps you've already felt that subtle shift in the sugar caddy. This isn't just any old diner with a quirky vibe. This is the daily grind, and its most dedicated employee clocks in for every shift, rain or shine, day or night, despite having departed this mortal coil decades ago. We're talking about Walter, the friendly apparition, a man so ingrained in the diner's very essence that he simply never saw a reason to leave. It's like when your grandma leaves a permanent dent on her favorite armchair. Some presences just linger. Walter isn't your typical ominous specter lurking in shadows and rattling chains to scare the daylights out of you. No, Walter is a benevolent force, a quiet, almost domestic entity whose primary concern seems to be the smooth operation of the diner. You won't find him attempting to possess the waitstaff or whispering sinister threats from behind the counter. Instead, you might notice a freshly wiped spot on a notoriously sticky countertop right after you've sighed in exasperation. Or perhaps that persistent draft you felt earlier inexplicably vanishes, and the faint scent of pipe tobacco, a scent nobody has smoked in the diner for decades, drifts past you, almost like a silent apology. It's the kind of ghost you'd want as a roommate, provided he doesn't use all the good coffee beans. His actions are subtle, polite, and consistently helpful. He's been known to restock the condiment caddies overnight, ensure the salt and pepper shakers are perfectly aligned, and even on occasion preheat the griddle before the morning cook arrives. Imagine walking into a chilly, dark diner at 5 a.m., dreading firing up the cold equipment, only to find the griddle already humming with warmth, ready for its first batch of pancakes. That's Walter's signature touch. It's a strange but true fact that benevolent spirits, often referred to as poltergeists in a non-malevolent sense, have been reported across various cultures, often performing small helpful tasks, much like a spectral concierge service. Historians still debate the line between genuine paranormal occurrences and collective wishful thinking, but Walter's consistent, helpful actions seem to defy simple explanation. A common historical event relevant to Walter's era is the rise of the American diner itself. Born from lunch carts and horse-drawn wagons in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, diners became quintessential symbols of American roadside culture, offering affordable, comforting meals to a mobile nation. They were places of community where people from all walks of life could gather, share stories, and, of course, enjoy a never-ending cup of coffee. Walter, in his own way, became an integral part of this evolving diner tradition. He was likely a dedicated employee, a man who found pride and purpose in serving his community, and that dedication, it seems, transcended the grave. You might even find yourself feeling a peculiar sense of belonging here, as if the very walls are radiating decades of shared meals and quiet camaraderie. The current owners, a kindly couple named Martha and George, have long since embraced Walter. They don't talk about him with fear, but with a quiet respect, almost as if he's a beloved, albeit invisible, family member. They might leave a fresh pot of coffee brewing on the back burner overnight, just for Walter, knowing that by morning it will be perfectly depleted, or they might find a misplaced order ticket magically returned to the spindle. These are not grand, terrifying spectacles, but tiny, affectionate gestures from a spirit who simply loves his job and his chosen place. He's not a spooky specter. He's just a really, really good employee who decided his retirement plan included eternal vigilance over the coffee pot. So as you finish your perfectly brewed cup, perhaps feeling an inexplicable warmth spread through you, remember Walter. He's the silent guardian of the sugar packets, the unseen wiper of countertops, and the eternal brewer of the freshest coffee in town. He reminds us that not all hauntings are chilling tales of terror, but sometimes, just sometimes, they're comforting whispers of a past that simply refuses to fade, especially when there's still work to be done. You've felt Walter's subtle touch on the diner's details, perhaps even caught a whiff of his spectral pipe smoke. It's clear he's no ordinary ghost, but a devoted presence, deeply intertwined with the very fabric of the daily grind. His domain isn't limited to just restocking condiments. It extends to the very heart of the diner's operations, a testament to his dedication. It's like having a silent, incredibly efficient co-worker who only works the graveyard shift and never complains about the music. Walter's activities are meticulously centered around the well-being of the diner. You see, this isn't a random, chaotic haunting. His movements are precise, almost ritualistic, mirroring the actions of a diligent, old-school diner man. Take, for instance, the coffee station. Every morning, before the first customer even stirs in their bed, the sugar packets are perfectly fanned out, the stirrers are aligned, and the creamers are neatly arranged in their little metal caddy. It's a level of tidiness that would make even the most obsessive-compulsive among us shed a single perfect tear of joy. Or maybe that's just Walter doing his thing. Beyond the visible, there are sounds. Soft, phantom clinking of plates from the dish pit when no one is there. The faint swoosh of a mop across the tiled floor after closing hours, and the barely perceptible thump-thump of a coffee pot being set back on the warmer. These aren't loud, startling noises. They are subtle, atmospheric additions that create a constant, comforting background hum of activity, as if the diner is perpetually alive, even when empty. It's the kind of background noise that's so natural, your brain just processes it as diner sounds, not ghosts doing chores. Historians still debate the subjective interpretation of auditory phenomena in allegedly haunted locations, but in the daily grind, these sounds are simply part of the ambiance. A strange but true fact about some historical diners is their use of a silent service system, where waiters would often communicate orders to the kitchen via a discrete system of bells or written tickets, minimizing vocal interaction. While Walter doesn't use bells, his quiet, invisible service almost feels like an ultimate extension of that efficiency. He moves through his domain with an unseen purpose, ensuring every detail is attended to. You might walk into the restroom and find a towel inexplicably folded in a precise triangle or a stray splash of water wiped from the sink. It's the small things, you know? The things that make you wonder if you're losing your mind or if someone really, really cares about cleanliness. A common historical event that deeply impacted small businesses like the daily grind was the rise of modern hygiene standards in the early 20th century. Public health initiatives pushed for cleaner kitchens and dining areas, transforming how diners operated. Walter, a creature of habit and likely a man who took immense pride in his work, would have lived through these changes. It's plausible that his lingering actions are a continuation of that professional pride, ensuring his beloved diner upholds the highest, even spectral, standards of cleanliness and efficiency. He's like the ghost of a health inspector, but way nicer. The diner's staff, having worked alongside Walter for years, have come to recognize his particular quirks. The cook, a grizzled man named Frank who's seen it all, swears that Walter occasionally nudges the spatula closer to his hand when he's busy flipping pancakes. "Old Walter," Frank grumbles, not unkindly, "always got an eye on me." The waitresses have learned to leave specific, easily movable objects, like a sugar packet, in unusual places, only to find them perfectly relocated by morning, a silent game of hide-and-seek with their unseen colleague. This shared understanding, this quiet acknowledgement of Walter's presence, is a key part of what makes the daily grind so unique. It's not just a place of work. It's a shared space, a collaboration between the living and the departed, all dedicated to the simple, comforting rhythm of a bustling diner. And as you gaze across the perfectly set tables, feeling that gentle hum of activity, you might just find yourself wishing you had a Walter to tidy up your kitchen. You've witnessed the subtle, diligent actions that define Walter's presence in the daily grind, the perfectly aligned sugar packets, the phantom clinking of dishes. But this benevolent haunting raises a fascinating question. What exactly is Walter? Is he a residual haunting, a mere echo of past actions imprinted on the environment, like a cosmic recording playing on a loop? Or is he an intelligent apparition, a conscious entity aware of his surroundings, capable of interacting and even choosing his actions? It's a debate as old as the stories themselves, and in Walter's case, the lines seem gloriously, bafflingly blurred. It's like trying to figure out if your smart home device is actually sentient or just really good at predicting your next coffee craving. A residual haunting, for those unfamiliar with the term, is often described as an energetic imprint. Imagine a highly emotional or routine event occurring so frequently or with such intensity that it leaves a kind of energetic recording on the physical space. This recording then plays back, manifesting as sounds, smells, or even fleeting visual phenomena, seemingly without any conscious intent from the ghost. It's like a really old cosmic VCR tape playing itself. If Walter were purely residual, his actions, the coffee brewing, the counter wiping, would be automatic, unchanging, devoid of any responsiveness. He'd just be a glorified, spectral Roomba. However, Walter's actions often suggest something more. Remember Frank, the cook, mentioning Walter nudging the spatula closer, or the waitresses finding their test sugar packets moved. These aren't just repetitive actions. These are responses, subtle yet deliberate, to the living. This points more towards an intelligent haunting, suggesting Walter is aware, observing, and even engaging. He seems to respond to the needs of the diner, almost as if he's a dedicated, unseen manager. He doesn't just brew coffee, he brews it for you, perhaps even adjusting it slightly based on your usual order. Historians still debate the precise mechanisms by which alleged intelligent apparitions might communicate or interact with the physical world. But Walter seems to operate on a principle of helpful empathy. A common historical event that parallels this fascination with unseen forces is the spiritualism movement of the 19th century. Driven by a desire to connect with the departed and fueled by an era of scientific advancement, people began seeking systematic ways to communicate with spirits, moving beyond mere folklore to what they hoped was empirical evidence. Mediums held seances, automatic writing became popular, and the public became captivated by the idea of conscious interaction with the other side. While Walter isn't holding seances, his subtle interactions are a far cry from a simple residual echo. Strange but true fact about some highly routine environments, like old diners or theaters, is that some paranormal researchers propose these locations become energetic batteries, absorbing and retaining the emotional and physical imprints of daily life, making them more prone to both residual and intelligent phenomena. It's almost as if the sheer volume of daily routines, the comfort, the stress, the laughter, saturates the very walls, creating a fertile ground for spiritual activity. The daily grind, with its decades of consistent service, countless cups of coffee, and untold conversations, would certainly fit this description. So, while Walter might perform routine tasks, his subtle responsiveness and consistent helpfulness tip the scales towards an intelligent presence. He chooses to interact, to assist, to maintain his beloved diner. He isn't just a memory, He's an active participant, a ghostly guardian who finds purpose in the aroma of fresh coffee and the comfort of a perfectly clean counter. He's not trapped. He's just staying. And as you consider this distinction, perhaps you'll look at that perfectly aligned sugar caddy with a new appreciation, wondering if it's a cosmic recording or simply Walter making sure your morning brew is just right. You're pondering the nature of Walter, a helpful echo or a conscious curator of coffee and cleanliness. To truly understand his persistent presence, perhaps we need to delve into the why behind his spectral servitude. What ties him so firmly to the daily grind? Could there be whispers of a life lived within these walls, echoes of a purpose so strong that even death couldn't diminish it? It's like trying to decipher the hidden meaning in your recurring dreams. Sometimes the setting holds the key, while specific details of Walter's life remain shrouded in the mists of time and the occasional waft of pipe tobacco. Local lore and longtime residents offer intriguing glimpses into his potential backstory. Many believe Walter was a dedicated employee of the diner for decades, perhaps even back when it had a different name and a slightly different menu. Some old-timers recall a particularly diligent cook or a perpetually cheerful server named Walter, who always had a pot of coffee brewing and a friendly word for everyone. It's the kind of indelible impression a person leaves on a place, like the comforting scent of your grandmother's baking that lingers in her kitchen. The diner itself has witnessed countless stories unfold within its booths. First dates filled with nervous laughter, late-night confessions over greasy fries, weary travelers finding a moment of respite and a hot meal. A common historical event in the life of many small-town diners is their role as a central hub for the community, a place where important local news is shared, friendships are forged, and the rhythm of daily life plays out. Walter, as a long-standing part of this environment, would have been privy to these moments, perhaps even an active participant in the town's social fabric. Maybe he offered a listening ear, a piece of advice, or just a reliably strong cup of coffee during pivotal moments in people's lives. Could his spectral presence be a testament to an unfinished task, a promise made, or simply an unbreakable bond with the place he considered his life's work? Some speculate that Walter might have even been a former owner, pouring his very soul into the establishment. Imagine the pride of building something that becomes a cornerstone of the community, a place of comfort and connection for generations. That kind of dedication doesn't just vanish. A strange but true fact is that some researchers believe that strong emotional attachments to specific locations or objects can indeed contribute to persistent hauntings, as if the spirit's energy remains anchored to what they loved in life. Historians still debate the extent to which personal belief and suggestion can shape the narratives surrounding such phenomena, but the consistent stories about Walter suggest a genuine connection to the diner. Perhaps Walter's terror isn't meant to frighten, but to ensure the continued comfort and smooth operation of the diner he so clearly cherished. Maybe his spectral stirring of coffee is a way of saying, "I'm still here, still taking care of things." His tidiness could be a reflection of the pride he took in his work. It's a legacy of service, a commitment that death has not diminished. It's like that one employee who always went above and beyond, and even now, in his spectral form, Walter is still putting in the extra effort. You might even find yourself appreciating that perfectly clean table a little more, knowing it's possibly the work of someone who truly loved this place. As you look around the daily grind, try to imagine the countless faces Walter might have seen, the countless stories he might have overheard. This diner isn't just a building. It's a repository of memories, and Walter, in his spectral way, is still a part of that living history. He's not a ghost seeking vengeance or resolution. He's a friendly fixture, a testament to the enduring power of dedication and the unbreakable bonds we form with the places we call our own. And maybe, just maybe, the next time your coffee is poured a little too perfectly, you'll offer a silent thank you to the unseen barista who's been brewing with spectral dedication for Who knows how long? You've been piecing together the subtle hints of Walter's life, understanding that his spectral shifts and coffee brewing tendencies aren't random, but rooted in a profound connection to the daily grind. To truly grasp why he remains, we need to step back in time, to the diner's golden age, a period when this humble establishment wasn't just a place to eat, but a pulsating heart of the community. It's like looking at old black and white photos of your town and seeing how different yet strangely similar everything was. Imagine the diner decades ago, perhaps in the post-war boom of the 1950s, a common historical event where diners like the daily grind truly flourished. America was on the move, car culture was king, and roadside eateries became iconic symbols of freedom and prosperity. The chrome shined brighter, the jukebox pulsed with the latest rock and roll tunes, and the air buzzed with optimism. This was a time when diners were often social epicenters, serving as unofficial town halls where deals were struck, romances bloomed, and friendships were forged over bottomless cups of coffee. Walter, in his living form, would have been at the very core of this vibrant scene. He would have known every regular's order by heart, every local gossip, and probably offered more unsolicited life advice than a syndicated columnist. During this golden age, Walter wasn't just an employee, he was a fixture. He might have been the short-order cook, flipping pancakes with practiced ease, his movements a blur of efficiency. Or perhaps he was the kindly server, his apron perpetually spotless, his smile a warm welcome to weary travelers and eager teenagers alike. People didn't just come for the food, they came for the experience, and Walter was a significant part of that. He was the kind of person who remembered your birthday, even if you hadn't told him. A strange but true fact about some highly successful diners of this era is that their star employees often became local celebrities, drawing customers purely by their personality and consistent, exceptional service. It was less about the menu and more about the man or woman behind the counter. The diner itself was a marvel of mid-century design. Gleaming stainless steel, red vinyl stools, and perhaps a countertop spinner with a dizzying array of pies. The coffee was always hot, strong, and seemingly endless. Walter would have taken immense pride in this, ensuring every cup was perfect, every surface spotless. He'd likely be the first one in, long before dawn, wiping down counters until they sparkled, making sure the griddle was humming just right. His commitment wasn't just to a job, it was to a calling. Historians still debate the precise socio-economic factors that led to the widespread adoption and cultural significance of the American diner, but its enduring appeal is undeniable. As you picture Walter in this bustling scene, you can almost hear the laughter, the clinking of cutlery, the sizzle of the grill. He wasn't just serving coffee, he was serving community, comfort, and consistency. And perhaps that deep-seated purpose, that unwavering dedication to his craft and to the people he served, is what anchored him so profoundly to the daily grind. It's not a tragic haunting. It's a legacy of service, a commitment that death itself couldn't sever. It's like leaving your favorite sweater at your best friend's house, only to realize your spiritual essence is also attached to it. So, as you reflect on this vibrant past, imagine Walter in his prime, moving with purposeful grace through the diner, a silent guardian of its golden moments. His current spectral presence, the gentle nudges and the phantom coffee aroma, are just echoes of that time, a continued devotion to the place he helped make so special. He's not trapped. He's simply continuing his shift, forever dedicated to keeping his beloved diner running, cup by perfect cup. You've envisioned the daily grind during its lively golden age, picturing Walter in his prime, a vital part of the diner's bustling energy. But even in a place as seemingly charmed as this, history doesn't always unfold with sunny optimism. Like all businesses, the diner, and indeed Walter's life, would have navigated periods of immense challenge. One of the most significant, a common historical event that reshaped America and the world, was the Great Depression era. It's like when your internet goes out during a binge-watching session. Suddenly, everything grinds to a halt, and you realize how much you relied on that constant flow. Imagine the diner during those lean years, the vibrant chrome dulled by worry, the usual chatter replaced by a somber quiet. The clinking of coins would have been sparse, each customer a precious lifeline. For small businesses like the Daily Grind, survival wasn't just about good food, it was about resilience, ingenuity, and community support. Walter, if he was indeed working there during this period, would have witnessed firsthand the struggles of his patrons, the silent anxieties over a single meal, the desperate hopes for a job, the stark reality of empty pockets. He might have seen regulars who could no longer afford their usual coffee or families sharing a single plate of pancakes. This era forced everyone to adapt, to stretch meager resources, and to find comfort in small, affordable luxuries, like a warm cup of coffee and a friendly face. During this time, Walter's dedication would have been tested, yet likely strengthened. Perhaps he was the one offering a sympathetic ear, or even occasionally looking the other way when a customer was a little short on change. He would have known that a hot meal and a moment of kindness could make all the difference. It's a strange, but true fact that during the Great Depression, many diners became unofficial community centers, offering not just food but also warmth, shelter, and a sense of normalcy in a chaotic world. They became symbols of resilience, places where people could still feel a connection, even when everything else seemed to be falling apart. His commitment to the daily grind during such hardship would explain an even deeper bond to the place. Surviving such an economic downturn, pulling through collective despair, can forge an unbreakable connection. Walter wasn't just an employee, he was a silent pillar of strength, maintaining the diner's spirit even when patrons were scarce. Think of it. When times are tough, you cling to what's stable, what's good. For Walter, that was the diner. Historians still debate the true psychological toll of the Great Depression on the average American, but the collective trauma undoubtedly forged a generation defined by resilience and a deep appreciation for stability. The faint aroma of pipe, tobacco, often associated with Walter's presence, takes on a new layer of meaning when viewed through the lens of this era. Perhaps it's a scent of quiet contemplation, of stoicism, of a man finding small moments of peace amidst widespread hardship. It might be a smell of comfort, something familiar and reassuring in uncertain times. His current spectral efficiency, the meticulous tidying and the perfectly brewed coffee, could be a lingering reflection of the scarcity he once knew, ensuring nothing is wasted and everything is just right. He's like the ultimate minimalist, but for spectral services. So, as you sit in the diner, imagining the echoes of the Great Depression era, consider Walter. His benevolent haunting isn't just about his love for the diner, it's about his dedication to those it served, particularly during its darkest hours. He's a spectral guardian who lived through hard times, and now ensures that comfort and kindness are always on the menu. His presence is a quiet reminder that even in the face of overwhelming adversity, some things, like a good cup of coffee and a helpful spirit, endure. You might even find yourself feeling a peculiar sense of gratitude for that extra splash of cream, knowing it comes from a ghost who truly understands the value of simple comforts. You've journeyed through the vibrant golden age and the somber years of the Great Depression, witnessing how Walter's connection to the daily grind deepened through both prosperity and hardship. But what happens when ownership changes hands? How does a new generation perceive a diner with a resident apparition who has a penchant for perfectly brewed coffee and meticulously aligned sugar packets? It's like inheriting a house and finding out the previous owner's very particular pet parrot still expects its daily sunflower seeds. When Martha and George took over the daily grind some years ago, they inherited more than just a business. They inherited a legend. The locals, well-versed in the tales of Walter, likely offered them knowing glances and whispered anecdotes about the diner's spectral helper. For Martha and George, who were looking for a cozy, established business in a friendly community, the stories might have initially seemed like charming local color, a bit of quirky folklore to add to the diner's appeal. They probably chuckled, maybe exchanged a skeptical glance or two, but focused on the practicalities of running a restaurant, ordering supplies, hiring staff, and perfecting their pancake recipe. However, it likely didn't take long for them to experience Walter's subtle interventions firsthand. Perhaps a spill mysteriously wiped clean before they could reach for a cloth, or a misplaced order suddenly reappearing on the counter. These weren't dramatic poltergeist-level events, but quiet, consistent occurrences that couldn't easily be explained away. It's a strange but true fact that people who are initially skeptical of paranormal phenomena often become more open to the possibility after experiencing consistent, inexplicable events in their own environment. Historians still debate the power of suggestion and confirmation bias in shaping personal beliefs about the paranormal, but Martha and George's gradual acceptance seems rooted in genuine, repeated experiences. The beauty of Walter's haunting is its inherent benevolence. There's nothing threatening or disruptive about his presence. He's not slamming doors or throwing dishes. He's ensuring the coffee is fresh and the salt shakers are full. This makes him not a source of fear, but almost a silent, ever-vigilant partner in the business. Martha and George, being practical and good-natured people, seem to have recognized this early on. They adapted, learned his subtle routines, and even, as we've discussed, began leaving out that nightly pot of coffee. It's like learning the quirks of an old house, the draft in the hallway, the sticky window, and finding ways to live in harmony with them. A common historical event in many small towns is the way long-established businesses become integral, parts of the community's identity, often carrying a sense of nostalgia and local pride. The daily grind, with its decades of history and its unique spectral employee, certainly fits this mold. Martha and George, by embracing Walter's legend and allowing him to continue his unseen work, are not just running a diner. They are preserving a piece of local history and a rather charmingly unusual tradition. They've become custodians of something special, a place where the past and present subtly intertwine over plates of hash browns and cups of perfectly brewed coffee. The community, in turn, appreciates Martha and George's acceptance of Walter. It's as if they've passed a silent test, proving themselves worthy of caring for this beloved local institution and its spectral guardian. The stories of Walter continue to be shared, not as spooky warnings, but as fond anecdotes, adding to the diner's unique character and drawing curious visitors. He's become a part of the diner's charm, a reason to smile and maybe wonder just a little as you sip your morning coffee. And as you observe Martha and George chatting with regulars, you can sense the deep connection they have, not just with their customers, but with the unseen history of the diner. A history that includes a very dedicated, very friendly, ghostly coffee brewer. You've seen how Martha and George embraced Walter, becoming not just owners, but custodians of a diner with a truly unique employee. Their acceptance has fostered a harmonious, if slightly spectral, atmosphere at the daily grind. But beyond the routine, tidiness, and the perfectly brewed coffee, there are specific instances, subtle signs, and shared stories that further solidify Walter's friendly presence and weave him into the everyday fabric of the diner. It's like hearing a familiar tune on the radio and suddenly remembering a cherished memory associated with it. One regular, an elderly gentleman named Mr. Abernathy, who has been coming to the daily grind for decades, swears that Walter still knows his order. Every Tuesday, he'd tell anyone who would listen, his eyes twinkling, I come in for the blueberry pancakes and black coffee. And you know what? The sugar is always already in my coffee, just the way Walter used to make it. Martha and George do a fine job, mind you, but that's Walter looking out for an old friend. It's a small detail, easily dismissed as coincidence. But Mr. Abernathy's unwavering belief, shared over countless Tuesday mornings, lends it a certain weight. It's a strange but true fact that personal anecdotes and shared experiences play a significant role in the perpetuation of local folklore and beliefs about paranormal activity. Then there's the tale of young Timmy, Martha and George's grandson, who once left his favorite toy truck under a booth after a visit. The next morning, Martha found it sitting perfectly on the counter, right next to the cash register, as if someone had carefully placed it there for safekeeping. Timmy, of course, attributed it to magic, but Martha and George exchanged a knowing glance. It's the kind of gentle, thoughtful act that speaks to a caring presence, one that pays attention to the small details of the diner's daily life. It's like when you misplace something and it mysteriously reappears in the most obvious place, making you wonder if you had an unseen helper. Waitresses have their own stories. Sarah, who's worked at the Daily Grind for years, recounts the time she was struggling to reach a heavy box of supplies on a high shelf. Just as she was about to give up, the box seemed to shift slightly, just enough for her to grasp it. She didn't see anyone, and there was no logical explanation. Felt like a little nudge, she'd say with a shrug and a smile. Thanks, Walter. These aren't dramatic interventions, but subtle assists, like a helpful hand appearing just when you need it most. Historians still debate the reliability of eyewitness accounts, especially when intertwined with belief in the supernatural, but the consistency of these gentle interactions at the Daily Grind is compelling. Even the diner's old jukebox seems to have a spectral curator. On occasion, when the power flickers momentarily, it will suddenly start playing a tune that was popular decades ago, a song that Walter was known to love. It happens rarely, just enough to make people pause and smile, remembering a time they never knew, but somehow feel connected to. It's like a ghostly DJ selecting a perfectly nostalgic track. These subtle signs and shared stories, these small, unexplainable occurrences, have become part of the Daily Grind's charm. They aren't frightening, they're comforting, adding a layer of gentle mystery to the diner's welcoming atmosphere. They speak to a presence that is more caretaker than terror, a friendly apparition who continues to be a part of the community he once served. And as you listen to these anecdotes, you might find yourself looking around the diner with a heightened sense of awareness, wondering if you too might witness one of Walter's subtle, spectral acts of kindness. You've heard the subtle whispers and shared stories, painting a picture of Walter as more than just a resident ghost. He's an unseen helper, a spectral employee who continues to contribute to the daily operations of the Daily Grind. His dedication goes beyond mere tidiness. It manifests in acts that genuinely assist the living staff, making their demanding jobs just a little bit easier. It's like having an invisible, incredibly efficient personal assistant who only works when you're not looking. One of the most valuable ways Walter assists is with the coffee. As we know, he's notorious for ensuring the pot is always fresh. But beyond brewing, staff have reported finding the grinder miraculously pre-filled, or the filter basket perfectly set up with fresh grounds when they arrive for the morning rush. Imagine the relief of a bleary-eyed cook, anticipating the arduous task of grinding beans, only to find it already done. It's a small miracle, saving precious minutes when every second counts during breakfast service. This kind of consistent, quiet support speaks volumes about Walter's benevolent nature. A common historical event in diner culture is the sheer relentless pace of the breakfast rush, demanding immense efficiency from staff. Walter's assistance would have been invaluable in such an environment. Walter's helpfulness extends beyond coffee. The diner's inventory has a curious way of staying organized. Boxes of napkins that were thought to be empty suddenly produce a few more. Sugar packets that were low magically replenish. It's not a grand overflowing abundance, but just enough to prevent a minor inconvenience from turning into a major one. It's a strange but true fact that some poltergeist phenomena are characterized by apports, where objects are mysteriously brought from one place to another. While Walter isn't teleporting entire cases of syrup, his subtle replenishments echo this concept on a smaller, more domestic scale. Historians still debate the psychological need for humans to attribute intent to random acts, but the consistent pattern of helpfulness around Walter is hard to ignore. The staff have learned to implicitly trust Walter's presence. If a new waitress misplaces a tray, they might leave it where it is for a few minutes, only to find it subtly shifted closer to the dish pit. If a customer accidentally leaves an umbrella behind, it often turns up carefully placed near the lost and found box rather than being left haphazardly under a table. These aren't just random acts. They are thoughtful, problem-solving gestures, hinting at an intelligence and care that goes beyond simple residual energy. He's like the ultimate silent partner, always looking out for the business and its people. Thus, atmosphere in the diner benefits immensely from this spectral partnership. There's a certain calm, a subtle flow that suggests unseen hands are at work, smoothing out the rough edges of a busy day. While the owners, Martha and George, manage the practicalities, Walter provides a layer of ethereal efficiency, a silent guardian ensuring everything runs like a well-oiled machine. It's a unique collaboration between the living and the departed, proving that sometimes the best help comes from the most unexpected sources. And as you enjoy your meal, feeling that unique rhythm of the diner, you might just find yourself wishing for your own invisible helper to tackle your daily to-do list. You've witnessed Walter's subtle, invaluable assistance, making the daily grind a smoothly running machine, even with an unseen hand at work. His consistent benevolence and helpful actions are well known to the staff and regulars. But what happens when the outside world, particularly those drawn to the unexplained, takes an interest? It's only a matter of time before a place like this, with its charmingly persistent poltergeist, attracts the attention of paranormal investigators. It's like when your quirky neighborhood restaurant gets featured on a travel show. Suddenly, everyone wants a reservation. Over the years, the Daily Grind has indeed seen its fair share of curious researchers and ghost hunters. Equipped with their EMF meters, thermal cameras, and digital voice recorders, they arrive with a mixture of skepticism and eager anticipation, hoping to capture definitive proof of Walter's presence. You can imagine them, lingering in the quiet corners after closing, trying to coax out a ghostly response, perhaps leaving a carefully placed coin on the counter, waiting for Walter to, perhaps, subtly roll it off. It's a scene straight out of a late-night cable show, complete with dramatic music and hushed whispers. These investigations often yield fascinating, if inconclusive, results. Sometimes, an EMF meter might spike inexplicably near the coffee machine, or a thermal camera might pick up a cold spot that quickly dissipates. Occasionally, a sensitive piece of audio equipment might capture a faint, almost imperceptible clink or swoosh when no one is physically present. These are the elusive evidence points that excite paranormal enthusiasts, though they rarely offer the definitive proof everyone seeks. A common historical event in the field of parapsychology is the recurrent pattern of encountering anomalous energy fluctuations in supposedly haunted locations, leading to continuous, inconclusive debates about their origin. However, Walter, in his characteristic manner, doesn't put on a show. He's not here for a prime-time special. He's here to keep the diner running. This often frustrates the investigators who are looking for grander, more undeniable phenomena. He won't slam a door on cue or throw a sugar caddy across the room just because a camera is rolling. Walter's subtlety is his signature. It's a strange but true fact that many long-term, non-malevolent hauntings are characterized by their consistent but understated nature, often defying attempts at direct, provoked interaction, as if the entity is simply going about its business. Historians still debate the ethical implications of hunting spirits, especially benevolent ones, and whether such investigations disrupt a peaceful presence. The diner staff and owners, Martha and George, tend to be very accommodating but also a little amused by these endeavors. They know Walter on a personal level, not as an anomaly to be measured, but as a part of their daily lives. They'll patiently explain Walter's preferences for freshly brewed coffee over cold spots and his uncanny ability to straighten a napkin stack rather than manifest in a full-bodied apparition. They might even playfully warn the investigators not to leave a mess, because Walter will just have to clean it up. So, while the scientific instruments might pick up fleeting anomalies, the true testament to Walter's presence remains in the consistent comfort of a perfectly brewed coffee, the miraculously tidy counters, and the shared knowing glances among the regulars. He's not a spectacle. He's a service. And as you imagine these high-tech investigations clashing with Walter's old-school efficiency, you might chuckle at the thought of a ghost more interested in his daily duties than in becoming a viral sensation. You've witnessed the often fruitless attempts of paranormal investigators to capture Walter's subtle essence, highlighting his disinterest in grand spectacle. This brings us to a fascinating intersection where the mystical meets the quantifiable. The attempt to explain Walter through science. Researchers, with their precise instruments and logical frameworks, often try to deconstruct phenomena like Walter's using theories of infrasound, electromagnetic fields, or even psychological suggestion. It's like trying to explain the magic of a perfect sunrise using only wavelengths and atmospheric pressure. You might get the physics right, but you miss the wonder. One common scientific approach to alleged hauntings involves infrasound. This is sound pitched so low that humans can't hear it, but our bodies can still perceive it, sometimes leading to feelings of unease, chills, or even the sensation of a presence. Some theories suggest that certain structural elements in old buildings, or even natural phenomena like wind, can create infrasound that causes people to feel spooked. If Walter were merely infrasound, his coffee-brewing, napkin-folding habits would have to be very, very specific vibrations indeed. It's a strange but true fact that some low-frequency sounds can actually cause vibrations in the eyeballs, leading to visual distortions that might be interpreted as ghostly figures. Historians still debate the extent to which environmental factors have influenced historical reports of hauntings, but Walter's helpfulness seems to defy simple acoustic explanation. Then there's the role of electromagnetic fields, EMF. Many paranormal investigators use EMF meters, believing that spirits manipulate these fields or that their presence generates them. Spikes in EMF readings are often considered evidence of paranormal activity. Old buildings with their outdated wiring and sometimes quirky electrical systems can certainly produce fluctuating EMFs. However, Walter's particular brand of energy seems more inclined to perfectly arrange sugar packets than to cause flickering lights or buzzing appliances. He's less electric ghost and more ethereal valet. Of course, the most common scientific explanation for alleged paranormal experiences is psychological suggestion and pareidolia, the tendency to perceive meaningful images or sounds in random stimuli. If you expect to see a ghost, your brain might interpret a shadow as a figure. If you believe a diner is haunted, you might attribute a creaking floorboard to a ghostly footstep. While these psychological factors are undoubtedly powerful, they struggle to explain the consistent, specific, and helpful actions attributed to Walter. It's one thing to imagine a ghost. It's another for that ghost to consistently leave your favorite coffee perfectly sweetened. Historians still debate the role of collective belief systems in shaping perceived realities, but Walter's actions often transcend mere perception. What these scientific theories often miss is the intentionality behind Walter's actions. An infrasound vibration doesn't strategically move a misplaced order ticket. An EMF spike doesn't subtly preheat a griddle. Walter's phenomena, while gentle, suggest a purposeful intelligence, a benevolent will. He's not a random energy fluctuation. He's an active participant. He's like a meticulously coded AI that only focuses on diner operations, but with a personality. So while the scientists bring their instruments and their logical explanations, Walter continues to operate beyond their measurable parameters, brewing his coffee and tending to his diner with an unwavering, unscientific dedication. His presence serves as a gentle reminder that some mysteries might simply exist outside the current boundaries of scientific understanding, defying easy categorization. And as you consider the limitations of science in explaining phenomena like Walter, you might find a renewed appreciation for the sheer delightful peculiarity of the unexplained. You've seen how science, with its precise tools, struggles to fully capture the essence of Walter's friendly haunting. Yet, his consistent presence undeniably shapes the very character of the daily grind. Walter's enduring dedication to his spectral duties has woven him into the diner's identity, creating a legacy that goes beyond just perfectly brewed coffee. It's like that favorite old sweater. It might have a few holes and a peculiar smell, but it's uniquely yours and carries countless memories. Walter's lasting legacy isn't etched in stone or documented in official records. It's felt in the gentle hum of the diner, the comforting aroma that perpetually lingers, and the shared knowing smiles between the staff and regulars. He's become an intrinsic part of the daily grind's charm, a silent partner whose contributions, while unseen by most, are deeply appreciated. His spectral tidiness and uncanny knack for anticipating needs have created a unique atmosphere, one that is both welcoming and just a touch mysterious. It's a strange but true fact that many successful small businesses cultivate a unique, almost intangible vibe that keeps customers coming back, and Walter is undoubtedly a key ingredient in the daily grind's special blend. His story has become a part of the diner's lore, passed down through generations of employees and recounted to curious newcomers. Martha and George readily share anecdotes, not with fear, but with a fond respect, almost as if they're talking about a beloved, if occasionally invisible, member of the family. They understand that Walter isn't a threat. He's a caretaker, a silent guardian who ensures the spirit of the diner, and perhaps even the spirits of its patrons, remain content. This acceptance and the open sharing of his story have solidified his place in the diner's ongoing narrative. A common historical event is the evolution of local legends around specific landmarks or individuals, often blending fact and folklore over time. Walter's story is a modern iteration of this phenomenon. Walter's legacy also extends to the sense of community within the diner. His consistent, benevolent presence has fostered an atmosphere of trust and even a bit of playful camaraderie. The staff feel like they have a silent ally, someone who has their back in subtle, spectral ways. Regulars feel a connection to the diner that goes beyond just the food. They're part of a story, a place where the ordinary meets the extraordinary, in the most gentle of ways. It's like being part of a secret club where the password is a knowing glance towards the perpetually full sugar dispenser. Historians still debate the role of shared, even unusual experiences in strengthening social bonds, but Walter's presence certainly seems to have fostered a unique sense of belonging at the daily grind. Even though Walter remains mostly unseen, his impact is tangible. The consistently fresh coffee, the subtly rearranged items, the overall feeling of a well-cared-for space, these are all testaments to his enduring presence. He's a reminder that sometimes the most powerful influences are the ones you can't see, and the deepest connections are the ones that transcend the physical realm. His legacy is one of quiet dedication, a spectral commitment to a place he clearly loved and continues to serve in his own unique way. And as you sit in the daily grind, perhaps noticing that your coffee has been silently refilled, you're experiencing a small part of Walter's lasting, friendly legacy firsthand. You've witnessed Walter's enduring legacy, a testament to his friendly haunting that permeates every corner of the daily grind. This isn't just a local oddity, it's a story, a vibrant piece of folklore that generations have come to cherish and actively pass down. It's like that favorite family recipe that gets tweaked and perfected over time, but the core ingredients and the love always remain. The tale of Walter isn't confined to hushed whispers among the staff. It's an oral history, a charming narrative that binds the community. Grandparents who once enjoyed Walter's perfectly brewed coffee now bring their grandchildren to the daily grind, recounting tales of the invisible hand that keeps the diner running smoothly. Imagine a grizzled old-timer leaning back in a worn booth, telling a wide-eyed child about the time Walter fixed the broken jukebox with a spectral nudge, or how he'd always ensure the creamiest milkshakes were served to the youngest patrons. These aren't ghost stories meant to scare, but rather heartwarming anecdotes that instill a sense of wonder and connection to the diner's unique past. It's a strange but true fact that many indigenous cultures around the world rely on oral traditions to preserve their history and spiritual beliefs, passing knowledge and legends from one generation to the next. As new families move into the Colorado town, they quickly learn about Walter. The initial skepticism often melts away after a few unexplained occurrences. A perfectly wiped table appearing out of nowhere, or a sugar caddy sliding silently across the counter. The locals welcome them into the fold, sharing their own Walter stories, turning the newcomers into believers, or at least curious observers. It's like a secret handshake for entering the town's most charming secret. A common historical event is the way local legends and folk heroes emerge and evolve over time, often blending historical fact with communal storytelling to create a rich tapestry of regional identity. Walter, in his own gentle way, has become the folk hero of the daily grind. The diner itself, with its unchanging facade and timeless charm, acts as a living archive for Walter's story. Each coffee stain on the counter, each worn-out booth, each clink of cutlery seems to hold an echo of his diligent presence. The continuity of the diner, despite changing owners and passing decades, provides a constant backdrop for the evolving narrative of its spectral guardian. It's almost as if the building itself encourages the tale to live on, ensuring Walter's legacy is never forgotten. Historians still debate the various methods by which historical narratives are transmitted and preserved. But personal storytelling, especially about a beloved local figure like Walter, proves to be remarkably effective. Walter's story adapts slightly with each retelling. Perhaps a new detail added, a different emphasis placed on a particular incident, but the core remains. A benevolent ghost who loves to brew coffee and keep his diner in tip-top shape. He's not just a memory, he's a living legend, influencing the present through his quiet, consistent actions and the narratives that swirl around him. And as you picture this tradition of storytelling, perhaps you'll find yourself eager to share Walter's tale, adding your own voice to the generations who have come to know and appreciate the friendly apparition who still brews coffee in a Colorado diner.